Janella Carrera.
And I'm Clint Rigel. Thanks for tuning in. Topping your news first tonight, a 35-year-old man is behind bars accused of sexually assaulting a 4-year-old girl who was found with blood dripping down her legs. A magistrate complaint says police responded to a complaint in an abandoned structure on Catalina Court earlier today. When police arrived, the suspect, Atrico Hiwinin, was nowhere to be found, but while there, they discovered a grisly situation. 3 children who were sleeping, one of whom was the alleged victim of a sexual assault. Police say the 4-year-old victim was only wearing a white shirt and was naked from the waist down and, quote, appeared to be bleeding from the genital area and had blood on the inner and outer thigh of both legs. One of the 3 children told police that they saw Hiwinin returning the victim to her bed just a few hours earlier between 10 p.m. and 12 midnight while the victim was crying. Another witness also told police that Hiwinin was seen standing over the bed where the victim was, and that he had a blanket wrapped around his waist. Police eventually apprehended Hiwinin, who was found hiding in the jungle. According to police, the 4-year-old girl was taken to GMH, where a doctor confirmed that the minor was the victim of sexual assault. Hiwinin was charged with first-degree criminal sexual conduct, resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and public drunkenness.
In other news, a teenage boy narrowly escapes being stabbed by his captors, and the 3 men who allegedly kidnapped him are now behind bars. The teenage boy, according to court documents, had been in a relationship with a relative of his captors who were unhappy about the courtship and that it had resulted in the birth of a child. The victim told police that he was walking home from the Tamuning gym when 3 men identified as Blarman Rapalpi, Jr. Tilmalyoang, and Damon Togolmai pulled up in a vehicle demanding that the victim get in or he would be beat up. So he complied. The complaint states that as Tilmalyoang was driving, he told the victim this will be his last night and that they were going to kill him. The 3 men eventually took the victim to a parking lot next to the District Court of GUAM. Police say it was here that Tilmalyoang attempted to stab the victim with a screwdriver. The victim, however, was able to block the blow with his hands and managed to flee from the vehicle to KFC nearby. Police were able to locate the 3 men and search the vehicle, where they discovered the screwdriver. Police also say that Tilmalyoang admitted to threatening the victim and confirmed that he pointed the screwdriver toward the victim. The 3 men are charged with kidnapping and terrorizing, while Tilmalyoang was additionally charged with aggravated assault with a special allegation of use of a deadly weapon. Togolmai is also charged with assault. They were all booked and confined.
Against 2 alleged drug traffickers has begun, with opening statements from all parties, setting the tone for the rest of the trial. PNC's Jolene Toves reports.
Raymond Martinez and Juanita Moser are facing charges of conspiracy to possess methamphetamine and possession with intent to distribute methamphetamine after they were allegedly caught in California with 8 pounds of ice in the back of their rental van. But it appears that the verdict may come down to credibility. Assistant U.S. Attorney Fred Black laid the groundwork for his case, sharing background information on the defendants and the man they worked with, former Customs and Quarantine Agent Henry Alvieda. Black shared with the court that he intends to call 3 witnesses and present 4 videos, all of which would bring the jury to reach a guilty verdict at the end of trial. According to Black, although Martinez and Moser were not caught until 2015, their alleged scheme to smuggle ice into the island began in 2009 at Ralphie's Bar, where Alvieda and Moser worked, and ironically, the bar was owned by the Director of Customs, Ralph Scambaluri. It was allegedly Martinez's mom who had the connection to a drug supplier in Mexico and introduced Martinez, but it was Moser who the government identified as the mastermind behind the scheme. Black pointed out that Alvieda was a corrupt custom agent who took bribes, kickbacks, and gratuities, all of which he pleaded guilty to in a separate case. According to Black, Alvieda began working for the FBI and Homeland Security as an informant against Moser and Martinez, who were allegedly in the drug trafficking drinking game for greed. While the government says this case is cut and dry, the defense for Martinez argues otherwise and counters that the government intends on only showing, quote, the trailer and not the movie, end quote. Martinez's attorney, Peter Perez, cautioned the jury to be wary of why the government intends on only calling 3 out of the 24 named on the witness list, further stating that, quote, the government is putting their hands up trying to cover all the evidence that is out there, end quote, arguing that the motive to present limited evidence is to cover up an investigation plagued with credibility issues. Perez says the government case lacks credibility because the evidence is based on corruption. He points out that the witnesses the government intends to call to the stand are not credible, citing to the court that Alvieda is dishonest and motivated by a sweetheart's plea deal with the government. Trial will continue next week with witness testimony. Reporting for PNC News, I'm Jolene Toves.
The legislature went into session this morning and immediately recessed until Tuesday at 2 p.m. As a result, the governor's office called a press conference to announce the closure of 2 fire stations. Guam Fire Department Acting Chief Joey Nicholas says if lawmakers don't pass a bill raising taxes today, the Estumbo and PD fire stations will close on Sunday.
We were hoping for some sort of a solution to have been passed this morning.
Instead, lawmakers recessed until Tuesday at 2 p.m. In response, the governor revoked his previous call to session, sent down a new bill that would also raise the business privilege tax by 2%, called senators back into special session at 1 p.m., and held a press conference announcing the closure of 2 fire stations.
We are now facing a situation that has given me no choice but to degrade our ability to meet our mission mandates, which could ultimately result in the loss of life or, at the very least, lessen our community's confidence that life-saving measures are available, which endangers the quality of life for all. To that point, the Guam Fire Department will make effective this Sunday, March 4th, 2018, at 0800 hours or 8 a.m. the following. 1. The closure of PD and Estumbo fire stations and the unit assigned, which include the fire trucks in PD and the fire truck and ambulance in Estumbo. We will combine our 2 advanced life support units that respond to over 1,200 calls a year into 1. We will merge the Dedido fire truck and the Rescue 1 unit, whose primary responsibility is land, search and rescue, and the operation of the jaws of life to extricate trapped victims, into 1 unit. 4, to reduce all fire truck and rescue unit staffing to a crew of 3, 1 less than the OSHA and NFPA required staffing for all hazard response. And 5, to place on a reduced schedule our Code Enforcement Bureau, which will result in significant delay in plans review and fire inspections for the various permits to operate businesses and events.
Acting Fire Chief Joey Nicholas says this will reduce overtime in order to achieve the mandated 10% cut. It'll save $200,000 a pay period or $2.7 million for the rest of the fiscal year, all in overtime costs.
I am now imploring my oversight chair, Senator Talena Nelson, and the 34th Guam Legislature to resolve this crisis before these measures are to take effect, because this cannot happen.
However, the legislature's legal counsel prepared a memo that says the governor lacks the authority to revoke his original call to special session and call senators into a new special session on another measure while they are in recess.
So 0 personnel at Estumbo Fire Station, lights off.
Correct, to include the PD fire station.
But why the PD fire station when it's so close to potential hazards at the Port Authority of Guam, the power plants, one of which exploded a couple of years ago, and the fuel tank farms, one tank which caught on fire after Typhoon Pangsona?
We have Agat Fire Station that's roughly about 15 minutes away. The next responding station over is also Tumuning. There is the mutual aid program that we have in effect that includes Naval Hospital and the Nimitz Hill fire stations from the federal, although they do not negate the need for a PD fire station. Those were factors that we did consider.
So this could put, safety of lives we're talking about here in jeopardy. Why cut here? Why not cut from some other government agency? And other agencies that can be cut.
Oh, no, everyone's cutting overtime.
Everyone's cutting overtime.
We said this a few weeks ago. Overtime in all agencies is being cut.
Meanwhile, the administration issued a press release this afternoon saying that the legislature recessed for a 3-day holiday weekend and ignored the governor's call to action to address this fiscal crisis. Meanwhile, also this just in, the governor has an executive order that he will be issuing that is similar to the last executive order for the 32-hour work week. However, it removes the exemptions that the Attorney General said did not apply. For more on that, be sure to log on to thepacificnewscenter.com.
All right, well, we have much more news first. Stay with us.